This is the Café con Podcast.
That was, I wanted to wait until it hit record. That was an amazing, this episode. Okay, hold on. Let's start it off the proper way.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know now you know.
Hold on. I think, what do I still hear? Wait. I hear a little echo on you. No, I hit echo cancellation. Okay, we're good. I hear echo on you. Did you put on reverb?
Nah.
Oh, no, it sounds a lot better now. Okay.
Just because I yelled, that's probably why.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Yo soy Isaac González Rossi.
And yo soy George.
Y nosotros juntos somos.
This is the Café con Podcast.
Qué bonito.
Let's go.
I love that. Man, oh man.
Oiga.
Whoa.
Great episode.
This one, I know we say this a lot, but my goodness, my Lord, Dios mío, no solo tuyo. That's what my grandmother would always say, and my grandfather too. And I go, Dios mío. She would always go, no solo tuyo. And I'm like, that's funny. Talk about a great guy, Alain Mesa. We met with Alain Mesa, and he did us the blessing of coming and sitting with us and chatting for about an hour and a half. And you guys are not going to want to miss out on this. It's so inspirational just hearing his story. He talks a lot about peaks and valleys and being very self-aware when you're going after a goal and when you're trying to achieve something, how to sort of stay grounded and remember what that goal is. And a lot about champion mentality. That was something that came up a lot too, was just having the champion mentality, which a lot of times is just pushing yourself to be as great as you can possibly be. And this guy, for those of you that don't know, he's Alejandro Vargas in the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 game that just came out. That was global sensation. He was one of the leads in that game, and he did not disappoint. I mean, the guy's just a legend. He was
Great perspective.
Great. Yeah. What did you take?
A great perspective, and I think just like don't be surprised when shit hits the fan, like, and don't be surprised when shit goes well. Like, everything can happen in this world. Just don't get too high or too low. That's what I took from it, and just like go hard, bro. Like
go hard.
Be a champion. Like feel like you can just. There's times too where you can, like he said too, there's times you can be vulnerable, but there's other times too where it's like stand in your own shoes and just own it and just, never die attitude. Ride it till the wheels fall off.
Always get back up. Yeah. Always get back up. That's something that I took from him as well is always get back up. Really gregarious guy. You guys are going to take a lot of nuggets for this. For anybody that is chasing a dream, this is a great podcast to listen to. Mm-hmm. I am very grateful for him to come on, and I hope you guys enjoy. Grab your cafecito and enjoy this wisdom that is about to be spit to all of y'all.
Enjoy, guys. Great
you
episode.
Heard?
You already know. Yeah.
Alejandro!
Sergeant McTavish!
Call me Soap.
Lieutenant! Last one says they call you Ghost.
Actually, I believe he prefers to
That'll do! Welcome to the City of Souls.
I've never been to Mexico.
This is in Mexico. Las Almas.
Shepard's contractors are inbound to reinforce. They're bringing hardware. They'll need room.
My base is your base.
Good. Now where's Hassan?
Cartel safe house, 10 clicks from here. Get in. ¡Vamos, muévense!
Está bien.
This is my second in command, Sergeant Major Rodolfo Parra.
Le tengo miedo a los fantasmas.
You know Spanish?
No.
You will.
Do you know Spanish? And the guy's like, no. And you're like, you will. I started cracking up, bro.
What's funny, and I don't know if Neil, if he did this on purpose, but when you listen back to it, and I ask him, do you know Spanish? He actually says no, like in like a, he says it in like a Spanish
accent.
Yeah. I don't know if he did that on purpose, but it was a great little like touch. Yeah, it's a good choice.
That is, we're already going. Well, George, he's probably getting his cafecito right now.
Yeah, I'll be right back. I'm gonna get my.
All right, go for it, bro.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab my coffee.
All right. It's so interesting that you talk about that immortalization, just because it's, dude. I mean, how wild is it to see yourself in a video game? I know that you've had a few instances before. I know that you did some video games before COD, right? You were in Red Dead. I saw that. Also, it's fucking crazy.
Here's the thing. Those are all like voiceover stuff. So I had never like modeled. I never modeled a cat. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I never done mocap, and then never had my likeness used. So, that you can do mocap to a role that is like a goblin or something, and it doesn't look anything like you. But for them, to use the likeness and kind of stay close to the likeness, because a lot of the time, though, I mean, they altered it a little bit, but for the most part, they kept it pretty accurate. So, yeah, it was surreal for sure.
Dog, that looked so much like you. Like they really, well, why wouldn't it look like you? Look at you, bro. You're like a fucking Greek god, bro.
Oh no, thanks. No.
That's awesome. Okay, so then how does we're already going. This is exactly how it's going to be too. When George comes back, we'll give a little cheers, little toast to cafecito. But I mean, this is just kind of what it's going to be like for like an hour. We're just going to be kicking it. Bro, how did that make you feel though? Seeing your likeness used in a video game. Did you grow up playing video games?
No. My brother was a big video game guy, and he's, still is, I guess. I mean, he's older than me, so not as much as he was when he was a kid. But for the most part, he was always a video game kid. When I moved to Los Angeles, I wanted to do video games just because I thought it was really cool to do motion capture. And even then, that was 2010, so the stuff wasn't as advanced as it is now.
Yeah.
By the time that I did the game though, and I was playing it, people always ask, was it trippy to, see your character like that? Well, I had already been seeing the character is the thing. Yeah, I mean, in the developmental stages, I had every day I looked up and I knew what Alejandro was going to, I mean, you lose sight of, you separate them because then you're you, and then you see that character and he's wearing the same thing. He looks the same way. So at a certain point, I didn't even say that's me. I'm like, okay, that's just the character. That's what it's going to look like. That's what we're going to do. And I just did, disattach myself from the model, essentially.
Dude, it was, I can't imagine seeing that because I grew up playing video games. I grew up playing COD. That's the other thing. Are you good, George? Are we set?
Yes, sir.
Papito.
Yes, sir.
Salud. Cheers.
Acere. What's up, George?
Que hola. Oh, God, that's good. I haven't had coffee all day. I've been waiting for right now.
Dude, I haven't had coffee last time we recorded.
That's the last time you had coffee?
Yeah, I don't drink coffee.
Coño. That's a long time ago. I have to have coffee every day.
You guys are behind. It's my second cup. Get out of here. I needed a cup just to be ready for this, and then a cup now para tomar with you guys.
That's what I'm saying, bro. It's like when I wake up. Well, what I've been trying to do, because I heard this guy talk about it, is that I've been trying to wait an hour and a half from the time that you wake up to when I have my first cup, because apparently whatever the receptors are in your brain, if you have coffee before then, your brain is not going to fully absorb the caffeine. I don't know if that's true or not. But
which guy said that? Which guy was it?
Huberman. Andrew Huberman.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, yeah. I listen to a lot of the stuff he says, so
yeah,
it's worth trying.
I drink water. I fucking chug water right when I wake up. I've been drinking Element packets. Have you guys heard of Element? They're the salt packets that are for hydration. I've been drinking salt water in the morning also.
I've been drinking a lot of Himalayan salt, pink salt.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's supposed to do, but I know that he talks about it, and it has magnesium in it, so it's supposed to help with sleep and shit like that. So I've been doing that in the morning as well, and then I hit my coffee.
Basically, if you just drink water, it doesn't hydrate you. You need something that allows it to enter your tissues. So Himalayan salt helps with that.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
All
Because
right,
if you
then.
just drink water all day, it's just gonna cleanse your body and like drain your body of nutrients. You're gonna piss it all out.
Yeah, that's true. And I heard somebody else talking. Oh God, I've listened to so many just fucking, optimal machine body videos. And some guy was talking about that we're 70% water in our body, right? But 70% of that is not the water that we drink. It's like crystallized version of water. So even if you're hydrating, like you said, it's just to filter out the body. So it's going to be filtered through your kidneys and you're going to pee it out. But the rest of the water that we're actually made up of is like the crystallized version of water. It's over my head.
So you're saying in order to utilize the water, the best thing to do is essentially put Himalayan salt or some sort of salt in it, right?
Yeah, it helps you absorb the water.
It helps you
I
absorb
know
it.
a bunch of athletes do that as well. Like they drink a lot of salt water after a game, and it's like electrolytes, right? It's to kind of replenish all that good stuff in there as well.
Yeah,
I
started doing recently.
What, you started drinking Himalayan sea salt?
I just grab I just like grind it, and I grab maybe like that much of it, and then I'll do it twice in the morning, and then go about my day. Or if I just feel like I'm a little like foggy or like I have a little bit of a headache because I'm probably dehydrated, I'll take like 2 swigs of that water, and then you got to drink water more afterwards, obviously. So I love it, dude. I feel an instant like jump of energy.
Yeah,
Sky
calls it my gill moment every morning. She's like, "Here come the gills. Time for the fish water."
At this point, I'm like desensitized to how nasty it tastes.
Yeah, whatever, right? It's like it is what it is. I chug that stuff anyways. I don't care. I remember
people drink a whole bunch of nastier things anyway. Apple cider. People will drink all sorts of weird shit in the beginning of the day and be like, "Yeah, I'm healthy." And then 2 years later, it's like, did that really make a difference? No,
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Bro, that's actually a good segue. How did you find the difference in that mentality coming from Miami to here? Did you find it at all? Did you see people doing that out here more versus in Miami when you moved out here?
Doing what?
Just weird shit like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Weird shit like that.
Oh, man. And you know what? I moved out in 2010. It's only gotten weirder and weirder day by day. LA just gets weirder and weirder. And when I see the weirdest shit that I'm like, wow, I didn't expect to see that. I'm like, that's LA, I mean, for sure. It's only a matter of time before I see that. I have, when was it? Man, what was it, like 2 or 3, 4 years? It might have been during the pandemic or before, but a friend of mine were driving down Santa Monica Boulevard at like 3:00 in the afternoon, lots of traffic. We're on our way somewhere, and we look to the right, and we're like, is that guy who's walking really fast from there to there, butt naked with just sneakers on? And my friend's like, yeah, he is. This guy was but he was on a mission. And I don't know, maybe when I had moved out to LA, I would have been like, oh my God, I don't see that in Miami. But by then I was already like, what the hell else is going to happen? It's 3 p.m. Tuesday. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're going to see that here.
Is there anything you can pinpoint that's changed since you've moved there to now? Like maybe
in Miami?
From like in LA, like how long you've been there from the start to now? Like, is there like any changes you've seen? Like,
man, in LA, well, unfortunately, like the streets have gotten a little dirtier. Yeah. There's just a lot of. It's unfortunate, but there's a lot of homeless people here in Los Angeles. Yeah. And a lot of them are aggressive. That's the thing. If people don't see that here, but there's a lot of them are aggressive. I hear about it from people who unfortunately aren't 6 feet tall and muscular. Because when I go out, I don't get that. And sometimes I just walk into 7-Eleven. I might, and I'm like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Okay, relax. So it's unfortunate, but we'll see what happens in the next few years.
That's the
being in LA as an actor is one of those things you have to be here. It's like whatever.
That's a good another segue. Do you feel like we have to be here right now with how self-taping and everything is kind of in the state of the industry? Do you think that you still need to be here in order to work here?
I think so, man, because people swear that they can be the next, like lead in a Tarantino movie and live in wherever. Even if you lived in somewhere like Chicago or New York, maybe, they may not want somebody, an actor from New York or Chicago. They may want one from Los Angeles because they know there's a bunch here. We were before the podcast started. Isaac and I were talking about video games and how sometimes they'll fly you from wherever for a game, but a lot of the time, I mean, I know I had a game audition the other day. It said you must be local hire because if you are going to the studio every day for months and months and months and months and months on end, it's not even a matter of money, but it's just also convenience too, that you're going to be there, and you may have a whole bunch of stuff going on as an actor, and that's great. But those people, whomever, the film project, the TV, the video game, that's their baby. That's their passionate project right there. So that's what they're thinking about. You want to make it as easy for them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I tell people all the time as well. Atlanta's blowing up and all this stuff, and I have a lot of friends. It's funny. I remember I had a friend that was like, hey, he was living in Atlanta, and he goes, I'm going to go out to LA. I want to set up some meetings with, some casting directors and some people out there and just kind of see what the lay of the land is and see if it's worth me moving out there. Because I feel like I could still do the same thing being on the East Coast. And I go, bro, if you could set up those meetings, let me know how. Because I don't know why you're coming to talk to me about it. And I live here. I have no idea how to do it. But I think you're right, man. You have to live.
He sounds like how I sounded when I moved to LA, that I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll do the soap thing. I'll do, become a soap star or whatever, do soaps for a couple years, make a lot of money, and then I'll break my way into TV. And then you get out here, and a year and a half later, you're like, oh my God, I'm starving for a commercial, bro. Please.
Oh my God, dude.
It is what it is.
It's the trajectory of the path of everything. So just a little background on George. George is actually a DJ in Miami. I've known him since
sweet, man.
Yeah.
What type of music?
House music and hip hop.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But like predominantly right now, house music. Like I've loved house music my whole life, but I made a lot of, like, for friends we have growing up, I made music for them, like, to rap on. But now I'm just like balls deep into house music, really just focusing on that right now though.
Yeah, in Miami, there's a big market. It's huge
right there.
It's the perfect
place for it. It's the perfect place for it. Yeah.
Not a lot of that in LA, I think, but in Miami,
move your colito, right? That's how you told me you want to make some music that makes people move their colitos, which I like that. I like that
especially
way of
the
talking
mamacitas.
about it. Bro, space with the space down there. As long as the space is open, house music will always have a home in Miami.
It always will. It is.
Man. It's interesting, just the trajectory, like going back to what you were talking about coming out here, because I've met so many people that are talking about disassociated. They just think that they move out here for a year and they're going to have that, oh yeah, I'll be able to do X and it's going to get me to Y and then it's going to get me to Z. The grind, the daily grind is something that is very undervalued when you first move out here.
And that's okay, because the people who take the biggest shock when that happens and are like, oh my goodness, that's not how it is. Well, more than half probably move back home. Yeah. And the other ones that stay and go, wait, this is not at all like what I thought. This is way harder. This is more difficult. But you know what? I'm in it. Like, I'm here. I'm going to do it. I don't care. And it's a learning process. So every year, every experience, you'll learn something new. You'll get challenged. And you'll always think to yourself, like, damn, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. That's the whole point. That's how you learn. That's how you become better at anything. You're like, can I get better? Can I get better? Can I get better? And you just keep doing it.
Bro, this is like the most beautiful morning for me. It's so funny because my wife and I were talking. She's like, are you okay this morning? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I just have so much stuff on my brain. I have, a lot of things I want to do this month. I have to do this podcast. I want to make sure everything is good. And just hearing you say that, I've had that conversation with myself more recently than probably the entire time that I've been out here. Is one of those things where I'm like, dude, this is fucking, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not going anywhere, but it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if I can do this. And then I wake up the next day, I'm like, well, I'm still doing it, and I just keep on going and just keep on going. Cause I think resiliency is probably the most important trait to have, or I guess one of the most important traits to have, chasing this thing out here. You got to have the ability to be resilient and tenacious, right? You have to. Otherwise, you're going to get beaten down. You're going to stay down. You know, it's literally about just continuing forward.
And counting your wins. I mean, I had a convo the other day with somebody at the gym, a friend of mine who was, I was telling him about Call of Duty, and I was like, man, for 13 years, it was like I was walking, or 12, or however many, 11, I guess, until I booked Call of Duty. I was walking in this valley, knowing that there's a palace somewhere, knowing that hey, man, this dream of mine, it's there. But dude, I was walking for 10, 11 years in this valley, and all I had were these mountains covering it. So then you do your first big win, at least for me, it was Call of Duty. And then I hit this mountain, and I'm at the top of the mountain. And I look, and I see so many more mountains that I'm going to have to climb, but I see the palace. So every once in a while, you get that win. And when you get the win, you have to look around and be like, wait a minute, look where I'm at. Look at the palace. I'm still on the way, because you're going to come off the mountain. You're going to be in the valley again. People are going to be like, okay, this guy fell off. He's gone forever. He had his good moment. That's only because you're continuing until you get to the next big win in your life, the next big mountain. And then you can see the palace again and go, yeah, I'm fucking coming for you. It's mine.
Bro.
You had a win. You had your Netflix movie. And that's what I'm saying is when you have those wins, don't let them go. Acknowledge, dude, you know how many fucking actors would wish that they were in a movie like you were, or a game or a project. I mean, all that stuff, acknowledge, because you were blessed to be there,
Yeah, amen. My mom tells me that a lot. My mom is like,
do you think that helps to have friends that are not in the industry, because they kind of give you a reminder of like, dude, you're doing like some dope shit? Like, because I know my friends, they definitely help me out with that don't do music. They're like, man, you're DJing a lot, you're killing it. Because like you said, like, and not just the acting industry, but just the whole entertainment industry as a whole, there's so much gray area, or just so much, like you said, valleys. Because whether it's like not the most professional industry, yada yada yada, but I've noticed that as well. What I'm trying to get at, I've noticed that as well since we've had several actors on here of Isaac's friends, and they just talk about how there's just so much moments in life where it just feels like you're walking around in circles, and it's just like, what am I doing here in LA, or just anywhere in my industry in general? So do you think that helps a lot with just to get like a reminder from other friends or other like contemporaries of like, yo, you're doing it, like from the outside looking in? Because we can get caught up in our own mind of like I said, we're walking around in circles, or we're in that valley like you mentioned.
I mean, they say like you're a sum of the 3 to 5 people that you hang out with the most. So I don't think it has anything to do with like having other actor friends, but I think it does have to do with having friends who are after some sort of endeavor and some sort of goal. I mean, that's the thing. I have friends who kind of just work, they do their thing. They don't, where do they want to see themselves in 5 years? Like happy, paying bills and not struggling. And then I have others that they have goals. They want to start a business. They want to be an actor. They want to do this. They want to do that. And that's a journey. That's a chase. You're chasing something. So whether you're chasing to be an Olympian, whether you're chasing to be a great actor, whether you're chasing to have the best podcast, whether you're chasing to have the best business, it's the same thing. I mean, I like to think all of the advice that I give myself is based off of sports. And I'm not really into sports too much. But, dude, you listen to Kobe, his interviews, you listen to guys like Jordan, you listen to all these athletes talk about their struggle to get it and how they fight and how hard it is and how they count their wins too. They go through valleys too. When fighters are training a lot of the time, especially if they're coming off a loss, it's like they were on this mountain and then they fell. And everybody said, hey, he had his moment. Good guys, he had his moment. And how many fighters do we know, how many champions that come back and win the championship again after losing it, And those are the stories that we want to hear. So life, wherever you look, will show you the lessons if you're looking for them. It's like Kobe said, he used to learn about basketball from everything. It wasn't about just where it's in the court. I mean, if Kobe was, combing his hair, doing whatever, he was trying to figure out how is this going to make me a better basketball player. And the ones that do that all the time, man, they get further in life. You may not be the furthest, I may not be the Brad Pitt, but I know that there's a whole bunch of other actors that weren't going after it as much as I was. and they're not on this podcast with you guys right now. So you know,
the number one coffee
forget
podcast
the game,
in the world,
yeah.
baby. The number one
Forget
coffee
the game, the podcast,
in the world.
baby.
Coffee's
Let's
forever,
fucking go.
Hell yeah, with my Mercedes.
Ya tu sabes, yo amo, bro. From three, bro, Mr. Worldwide. You leveled up from Mr. 305 to Mr. Worldwide, dude. Straight up with that. That is amazing that you said that too. Just you talking about all that also was just. I've been out here since 2016, and I have seen so many people drop off and move back or just stop because, like, it's fine. I think life is life is life is life. That's one of the things that I say. And what I mean by that is some people want to have a stable job and to just pay their bills and be happy and have a home and have a family. God bless you. I hope you do that. So the level of attrition over time, people are going to drop off, right? Just by circumstance, because some people just don't want it anymore. So just hearing you say that, dude, because it's true. I listen to Kobe interviews quite often, and that dude was talk about wisdom. That guy had wisdom in spades when it comes to learning and to constantly just trying to make the most out of every single day. 1% better a day. That's kind of what I try to just tell myself. Just 1% better a day, right? Whatever you can do, however much you can give right now, just try to be 1% better every day. And actually, I had a question regarding that when you were talking about the outside noise. How many times have we seen champions that have lost and that have come back? People say, oh, they had their moment, they're done. How much does outside noise affect you? And if you don't let it affect you, what tools do you use when it comes to that in order to maintain like stability and sort of, a stasis, so to speak?
Outside noise. I mean, man, I love pressure. So if there isn't any pressure on me, I'll put pressure on myself. Yeah, I felt the pressure working on this game. We all did, because Call of Duty was kind of in a place that they needed to get a win out, and I was coming in to work with these pillars of this franchise. It was like coming in there like, yeah, you're the new guy to work with the Avengers. Well, everybody's going to be like, who the fuck is this new guy? And he's Latin? And he's got a weird accent. What the hell's going on? And, so I knew that there was going to be...
Do you speak Spanish? You will.
Yeah, all that shit,
Loved it, dude.
So I felt the pressure, and I wanted the pressure. I wanted it. And when the key art came out, people were saying like, "Hey, who the hell is this guy? This is weird. He's probably a bad guy or whatever. I'm more excited about the other guys." So I knew that, and I was like, "No, I'm not here. I'm not a pushover. I'm not somebody who's just going to be like, oh yeah, he did a good job. Now who's next?" So the pressure was, "Hey, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do this again. This is the world stage, and I've been blessed and grateful to have been given this opportunity." So I constantly put the I made the outside noise, and if I couldn't hear the outside noise, I just pretended I did. That's all.
That drives you. That's like the Jordan. Did you see The Last Dance? Did you watch the documentary?
Of course.
All right, good shit. So I love that one story of the Washington Wizards guy that he said to Jordan, "Hey, good game," or whatever it was, right? That Jordan made up this story. So the next day, he had the same amount of points that he had in the first half, right?
Yeah.
That story always sticks with me because I'm like, dude, that dude was so maniacal, but in a positive way, for him to force himself to be the fucking best that he could be right then and there. He would make up stories. That's
a dangerous
wild.
person.
That is wild. And within
Shaq
the boundary,
did that too.
right? Within the white lines, it's gladiator time, baby. It's the arena. We're going at it.
Well, that's what champions do. Look, we have champions too as actors and musicians. We have champions too. When they ask Christian Bale about Batman, they go, "Listen, you can't. If you play Batman, that's what people are gonna look at you as Batman. That's it. You're just gonna be like Batman, and yeah, they're gonna be like, yeah, he's a good actor and he's done some good roles, but like, yeah, we got Batman forever, And Christian Bale said, "Oh, really? Okay, well, I'll do it." He said, because it's a challenge. It's not because it's, oh, I want to be Batman. He said, "Oh, you really think that I'm gonna play Batman and I want to be able to just fucking Batman?" He said, "No." He knows he's a champion. So he brings that out of himself, and he says, "You bring it on, bring on just the same way an athlete would." Christian Bale is a champion, so yeah, you don't think Daniel Day-Lewis would say that? You know, if somebody says you can't do this, I'm pretty sure like great actors like Joaquin Phoenix, Daniel Day-Lewis, a lot of the time when they do a role, they're like, "Can I do this?" And if they're asking, they say, "I don't know if I can fucking do this." Wait a minute, I know I need to do this because I need to challenge myself and do it. You know. It's not for anybody at that point. It's for you. It's like, can I do this? Am I made out of what I really believe I'm made out of?
Yeah, 100%. Have you had somebody tell you that you shouldn't do this? Like literally tell you pick a different career in the trajectory, especially in those valleys that you were talking about before. Did you ever have anybody? Because I have a story that I'm going to tell you after you answer.
I mean, I had one person, that told me that I wouldn't make it. But then again, like I just met him that day and they were drunk and they didn't know what the hell they were talking about, because everybody else that I've met have been like, "Hey, you're good. You should do it." And even when you feel discouraged, the universe, God has ways of sending you little messages and angels and saying, "Hey, stay in it." Sometimes literally you have somebody say, "Hey, stay in it." And you'd be like, "Where did this guy come from to tell me to stay in it?" It's just the way it is. So
that's crazy.
I'm not going to name any names, but I had an industry professional. He might have been drunk. I don't know. It was over the phone. I couldn't go to perform background work. All right. And I had somebody tell me, "You should quit." And I did the decent thing to call the person and tell him I wasn't going to show up. I was one of 400 background artists. He told me, "You should quit and find a new profession because you'll never make it in this one. You don't understand how this profession works." And, you know, the way that I handle sort of confrontation, I said, "All right, thank you very much for your opinion." But as soon as I hung up, I was like, well, damn, now I got to do this because somebody told me that I couldn't do it. You know, it's like now I have to do this. And serendipitously, after that, I was able to be on a show because of the fact that I didn't perform said performance like I was saying. And if I would have, I wouldn't have been able to be on the show as a principal. So it's like so many things aligned then and there. And I've never had somebody to my face tell me, "You're not going to make it." You know? And when they said that, I was like, well, fuck, you know what? Even if I don't make it, the fact that I'm going to stay in this shit is enough to get me through what you just said. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, dude, now I have to.
Well, and if anybody ever does tell you that experience is where you put on your piece of armor on your suit. So right there, that you already became stronger. So the next time somebody says, "Hey, you shouldn't be in it," you'd be like, yeah, you just disagree with me. You don't know what you're talking about. That's all it is.
Thank you. It's a piece to the Iron Man suit. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bro, you mentioned Christian Bale a couple times. Is he one of your tops? Is that one of your inspirations?
No, he's not one of my top inspirations, but I mean, I'm a fan of greatness, and I'm a fan of being a champion. And again, like, he is a champion. He's one of those guys up there that are worthy of putting on a pedestal because he takes what we do to the next level. Mm-hmm. I love Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, that's my favorite actor. He's incredible. I think There Will Be Blood is one of the greatest movies, and it's probably I think is the greatest performance of all time. It's better than Brando and The Godfather. I mean, it's so advanced that people, I think 20 years from now, they're still not going to be able to figure out how good that performance is. Yeah, but Gary Oldman is another favorite. Joaquin Phoenix, Bryan Cranston.
Joaquin.
Yeah, man.
I love Joaquin, bro. That guy's. They're making a second Joker. They made it already, right? They're gonna.
Yeah, it's gonna be a musical with Lady Gaga.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
I don't like musicals, but I'm looking forward to that.
I don't think it's gonna be a traditional musical. It's gonna be.
No.
It's gonna be wild. I think that one's gonna be a little crazy. I can't wait.
And they got Lady Gaga, so if you're gonna get a female lead for a crazy ass musical like that,
she's perfect.
You got
Harley Quinn.
You got the best leading lady, for sure.
I remember sitting in the theater watching Joker with my dad, right? And I had already seen it, and then I took my dad to go see it, and maybe 10 minutes into the movie, my dad turns to me and he goes, "He's gonna win the Oscar." He's just like, and you know my dad, George. So, and my dad's literally like Robert De Niro. I grew up with the Godfather in my house. He's like, "This is an Oscar." And I was like,
and for him to say that,
it was so funny when he said that.
You can't bullshit that guy,
bro. That movie,
I got a question for you guys.
Performance.
What's the best movie theater experience that you've ever had? What were those movies at, and why were they so good in that experience?
Interstellar, and True IMAX.
Yeah.
Interstellar was
Okay.
for sure up
Did
there.
I see that with you, Isaac?
Maybe it was in Orlando. I saw it 7 times in IMAX, so maybe.
Yeah.
That one.
Super Nolan fan.
Bro, I fucking love Nolan, dog.
That was probably for me as well. I mean, that's probably the most one of some, if not the one of the most submersive movies I've ever seen.
I think it was
Like
because
you feel
of
like you're
the
there.
audio.
Like at a certain point, you feel like you're there, man, and it's like
that movie was.
And
a
it's
ride.
not even like you're nervous for the characters, you know, like it's like you know in the scary movies you're like don't do it. It's like when you're doing that, you know it's a good movie because you're just so in it. It's like you're like a bystander in the galaxy with them. I would say.
Yeah, and it plays with such a real fear, man. Like it's crazy how, you know, we don't want this guy to lose this much time that fast, but then we look at our own lives and it's like, how fast are we losing our own time?
Right.
And it makes you think that, like, wait a minute, like one day I'm going to look up and it's going to be like I had to hit that glitch, you know, in time. So,
or if it's like he's doing that much for like humanity in that span of time, like why can't we just dedicate our lives to our craft for at least half of our lives, you know, and like leave something behind that we can be proud of.
Goes in a blink too, dude. That's the other thing. So Interstellar was like one of the first ones that just came to my mind. And in recent times, I loved Parasite. I loved that movie.
All right, yeah.
That was one when I left the theater that I just kind of couldn't stop thinking about it. But also The Dark Knight, I gotta give the honorable mention. Just going back to Nolan, and going back to Christian. That's why I was asking you, because Christian Bale is one of that dude, like you said, champion. That's definitely upper echelon, and pretty much anything he does, I'll watch it. You know, just because I think that he's an incredible actor. But
I remember when Joker
Dark
died,
Knight,
I was like, they could have ended the movie there, but then they brought about Two-Face. I was like, this is something else, man.
Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger's my top. He is the whole reason why I even thought about acting as a profession, because I coming in from Miami, it wasn't in my vernacular to say, oh, I want to be an actor, right? I didn't get exposed to that. My mom was a choir teacher.
That's what most people hear.
Ay, qué bonito, qué bonito.
Sí. Sigue.
Sí. No, okay, vete al cuarto, okay. Go play video games, go play.
Limpia cuarto.
Yeah. Mira qué reguero está en este cuarto, bro.
But how about for you?
Ruining childhood dreams like one Cuban family at a time.
Love it, baby.
That movie
talk about
you
tenacity.
Stood out to you though. What movie was that?
Oh man, Whiplash. In recent times, Whiplash. I went to go see that. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about the movie. I went with a buddy of mine, and we were like, "Hey, man." There really wasn't that many movies, so it was that between like a PG-13 movie, Saint Vincent, which was up for some awards, and this R-rated movie, Whiplash. And we had just saw a trailer, and I love J.K. Simmons, so I was like, let's go see it. And I was just blown away.
Is that the one with
Not
the
just
drummer?
because of
yes,
what's
the
that?
Drummer.
Isaac showed me that movie.
Yes, the drummer.
With the drummer.
Dude, I was blown away, not just because, J.K. Simmons was incredible, but the movie you're at the edge of your seat the whole time trying to figure out what's going on. And I think that at that time in my life, that's how I felt. I wanted to bleed on my own drum set. I want to continue to always bleed on my own drum set, but especially at that time that I felt like I was being overlooked by everybody out here, I was just like, man, I know I got that fire to bleed on these drums like this guy does. So I walked out of there and I was just like, holy shit, it's still one of my favorite movies for sure.
Talk
and it was
about
just
a performance, that J.K. Simmons performance.
One of a kind, bro.
Well deserved the Oscar.
Not even like a huge production or nothing either. It felt like I was watching a playwright at one point.
Yeah,
like it felt so.
Well, that's the thing. It just kind of feels like a play or something. Yeah,
Doesn't
it just
it?
feels like something. No low budget. Yeah, it's just like good story, good acting, and at least for artists or people who are after an endeavor, it should definitely like pull on some heartstrings.
Dude.
Yeah,
and
Especially like the method of coaching he got. It was just so hardball.
Well, that's the thing at the end, you're like, damn, this guy's a motherfucker. And then you're like, wait, this guy, they care about each other. This guy cares about this kid. He cares about him so much that he's willing to do whatever if it takes blood and sweat and tears. And no, it's not for everybody. And a lot of drummers, a lot of artists will be like, no, that's not. He's hurtful. But other artists will be like, no, man, fucking scar me if you have to. I want to be my best. And that's how I am, you know?
Yeah, he threw him in the deep end from the get. I remember that shit. That was crazy.
That's actually another good question that I wanted to bring up, because we've asked a couple of the actors that have come on here. What's direction? How do you prefer your direction? Like, what's some of the best direction that you've received in your time?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends for whatever is for every single different type of job and every different type of project. Like, I do a lot of English dubbing, and the dubbing, and even just for voiceover in general, when you go in there, a lot of the time I'm just asking the director, like, what do you guys want? How can I change what I'm doing so that I can give you what you want? Because a lot of time they'll be like, yeah, you know, let's bring it a little bit, a higher tone or lower tone, and give me a little bit of extra aggression or whatever the hell. And it's really just giving them what they want. Whereas, and that's fine. I love that because I can take direction and I can do it. As a thing with an audition, you do it one way and that's it. You send it off, and it sucks because you're like, wait a minute, I can do this 15 fucking different ways, and you can. But sometimes they get the one guy who did the one that they did it, and maybe they don't have as many choices, right? But with Call of Duty, I'm going back to that because that's been like the greatest artistic experience that I've ever had. I was able to collaborate with the directors, and that was a difference for me. Was that, imagine, man, you go in there and you have these choices, and then you go into Call of Duty to the top of the food chain when it comes to military games and first person shooters, and you're like, hey, I want to do this, I want to make this choice, I want to have this voice, can I do that? And they're like, yeah, we like it. And you're like, oh, are you sure? It's like the Yankees said, step up to the plate, and I was like, well, I think it's going to be I think it's going to go low, and I'm going to swing over to the left. Is that cool? And they'll be like, yeah. Wait, we're at the World Series. Are you okay with that? Yeah. So because Brian Bloom and Jeff and all the guys at Call of Duty, because they gave me that type of responsibility, I really trusted them, and they trusted me, and I really didn't want to let them down. So it was all about giving them exactly what they want and then some and more. And it just turned great because it was like Alejandro wasn't theirs and it wasn't mine. It was ours. It was a collaboration, in the end.
Did it feel a lot different from like your usual work, which is like acting, or like what I'm asking is, I went to a school in Orlando called Full Sail University.
I know Full Sail, yeah.
Yeah.
Cousin went
so
there.
They have a video game design division.
Which he went through. My cousin, yeah, he makes video games. Yeah, it's one of the best.
That's like the Harvard to me, those guys are superheroes. I used to tell kids in the hallway, like, yo, what are you doing here? And they're like, oh, I do video game design. I'm like, you guys are the real superheroes. And they'll start laughing. I'm like, I'm not joking, bro. Like,
yeah.
So how was it? Did you see any like similarities or like a lot of differences working with like the video game world compared to like, the TV world of acting?
Like, I mean, I haven't had too much like creating roles in TV and film experience. The TV and film experience has been like me showing up to a guest role on a show and being like, hey, give me the money with a gun, and be like, all right, bye, being the bad Latino. But I can say that doing motion capture, it was like doing a play because you have a camera right here. You have cameras everywhere. So you don't have to worry. I mean, yeah, there's going to be times where the director will be like, okay, this is the shot that we're going to do. And it's more conventionally like TV and film. But for the most part, you can go wild. You can turn around. You can do whatever. So it's like you're doing this play. And because we were working on the game for like a year and a half, essentially, I got to build that character. So it wasn't like, hey, I need to do this very quickly in 2 to 3 weeks or a month. Okay. And goodbye. No, I learned about the character, and I would wake up thinking about him and just discovering things about him. So it was essentially like I got to build that slowly so that the character was something completely not different, but way more advanced than the first day that I had walked in. You know.
It seems like they brought like you in and other people in, and they basically told you guys just keep doing what got you to the dance, right? Kind of in a sense, because like you seem like you were trying to get pointers from them, or you were like, hey, can I do it like this? And they're like, yeah, go for it, bro. Like, do what you
Yeah.
do so this can work in the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. Also, I worked really hard. So when I showed up to day one, I was like scared. I mean, I put that pressure on myself. I was like, holy shit, this is Call of Duty. I'm going to go in there and they're going to tell me that they don't like the accent. They're going to want me to do something different. They're going to tell me to do something on the fly. So I went in there like prepared for war, and there wasn't. So I felt really good about that. I was like, oh shit, like now I have, and going back to Christian Bale. I attended an interview. Let me just, a side note, and I probably forget about what I was talking about, but a side note because it's important. I attended an interview of his one time, and they asked him, why do you do as much preparation as you do, Christian? And he said, because I don't feel many of the times that I am adequate enough to do the job. I don't feel like I can do the job. So all this extra stuff, I feel like I have to do that just so that I can be just satisfactory enough for him to do the job. And some actors need that, some actors don't. I would feel that way too. I'm like, wait a minute, if I have just enough stuff that I need to do this job, I don't have enough. I need to have the backup shit when things go wrong, I have that to back up. So Christian Bale, man, that's why he's a champion.
Yeah, that's preparation. What's the if you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail, right? That's the John Wooden quote.
And then just him adding that pressure on himself, you know.
Yeah, I think it's so. So going to Heath Ledger now, I remember seeing something with I think Christopher Nolan was talking about Heath Ledger, that Heath Ledger would take large breaks in between projects. Now, he was blessed enough to take breaks, right? But he would take longer than he should because he needed to feel that desperation to work again, that hunger to work again type of thing, right? And I'll never forget when he got cast as a Joker. I remember thinking, the guy from Brokeback Mountain and A Knight's Tale, you know, he's going to be the Joker. I'm like, all right, whatever. Let's see how it turns out. And then change my life, right? But just looking at performances that really inspire you, I always find this beautiful sense of freedom. And for me in my own work as well, when I'm overly prepared, I'm more free. I'm able to be, there's able to have less manifestation of stress in my body, because then I can just be like, I already know I can do it this way, I can do it that way. You know, similar to what you were saying, I did a couple of episodes on Westworld, and I remember before the first one, I only had a scene, right? But I was like, I over prepared for that thing because I was shitting bricks. You know, I was like, I'm going to be on Westworld. This is wild. And I loved that show.
Yeah,
I loved I froze?
You're still recording though.
I'm still recording. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Caught up. It slingshotted. It slingshotted.
Oh, okay. So anyways, I over prepared, and I remember when I got there, it's kind of similar to your experience because it was the most relaxed, calm, collaborative environment I've ever been a part of on that level. It was wild. First off, he didn't allow cell phones on his set, which I particularly liked because then people are all attentive. They're all there. They're all paying attention, right? If you call for a mark and let's mark the actor, and the person is 2 minutes behind, that's wasting time, and the people aren't actually. It's almost like the pressure's not on you. Everybody's just kind of like, they're on their phone. I think that cell phones sometimes kind of ruin the environment of a set. So anyways, I remember we did a rehearsal and they didn't tell us anything. And I was acting with Marshawn Lynch and Aaron Paul. Right. So like, I love football, and I remember seeing Marshawn Lynch, and I love Breaking Bad. That was for me one of my inspirations when I was in college. I remember watching it and just thinking,
greatest show of all time.
Thank you for saying that. 100% hands down, greatest show of all time.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, watching Aaron Paul just do his thing, and I remember thinking, like, if I could get to a sliver of that, I would be happy. Right? Because he was around my same age. Did you get me coffee? Oh, wow. Thank you. And I remember thinking that, he's around my age. I was coming up. I had just kind of started to figure out that I wanted to do acting in college and take it super seriously and things like that. And now I'm acting against him, right? So it's kind of this full circle moment. And the freedom that they gave us, they just said, all right, let's just run the scene. Literally, it was just a camera rehearsal. So they could just see, oh, okay, so they're going to move this way. All right, so we'll model the cameras around them to not make them feel constricted. I had never experienced that before. And then we did the scene quite a few times, but the direction that I got, that was another thing. They never told me, oh, can you make it, a common direction that I get is, can you make it more Hispanic? Just make it a little more Hispanic. And I'm like, what does that mean? Yeah. Órale, güey, hey.
Yeah.
Bro,
Be more Mexican,
what's
please.
up,
Be more Mexican.
bro?
No,
Yeah.
I'm Cuban. No, Mexican.
Dog. Let's go on that bunny trail. The Westworld thing was amazing. It was just about freedom and it just being so present. Aaron Paul was one of the most present actors I've ever been with, and I learned a lot from him. But let's go down that bunny trail that you just said, because I actually had a question about that. How have you found the roles that you've gone out for since you've been out here? Because I know whenever I get Hispanic, it's not ever the Cuban Hispanic. More often not, they don't necessarily want the Cuban Hispanic. How have you found that modeled throughout your career, and how have you been able to navigate that? Do you lean into just being Cuban? Do you try to give them something like what has been your experience when you get a role and it's like Hispanic?
Yeah, well, on screen again, like I've done little projects here and there, 1 or 2 day gigs, and they'll always, and it's, again, the guy with the gun. So the guy with the gun, it will say Latino. But when I show up, because the line is, hey, give me the money, man. I don't have to say it in any language. So I'll just say it in whatever. And then they're like, yeah, you got it. You're the bad guy, Sometimes for voiceover, when they ask, there's just been times that they'll ask for Cuban accents or Miami, Puerto Rican accents, which is kind of very similar. And then you do that, you do the Caribbean accent. And then there's been times that I book it. I go to the day of. And in one case, I was doing a commercial with another actress who was also Cuban. We both were, it was a party in there that day because we were both Cuban. So we were having a good time, this and that. We did the thing. We're like, man, that shit sounds so good, so Cuban. And then the client comes in. Yeah, we're going to want to drop the Caribbean accents. Can you just do a neutral span? It's like, wait a minute. We booked this because we're Cuban. Fuck do you want the neutral accent now, There's been times that I've booked that they do a Cuban accent and they rehire me. And when I listen to who they picked, it's like somebody who has like a Central American accent or somebody who it's just like they didn't want the Cuban. There's too much flavor. Yeah. With a Cuban accent, sometimes if you go too much,
it's the animation in the accent itself. They want it sort of pared down. That's what I've found is to pare it down. Like for instance, the audition that you gave me the advice on, they wanted a Central American accent, right? But in the lines as well, for me, it's hard trying to do Central American because then I feel like I lean into, hey, I'm Mexico, and then it gets to be where I feel not real. I don't feel like I'm being.
It can get caricature,
honest.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
A fine line.
So that's interesting, dude. Because we had, I don't know if you met him. You might have met him. You went to that play reading, right? The Robbie Ramos play reading that Gabe was a part of. Yeah. So a buddy of ours was.
I see Gabe I run into Gabe all the time.
Really?
I run into Well, I've seen him a couple times at the gym.
In La Fine. You guys go to
La Fine. Yeah, you always get excited when I see him. Like, that's the way it is with Cubans in LA. When you encounter another one, it's like you ran into your cousin. What the hell?
It's
even if you just met him, we're like, hey, primo.
Yeah. What's up?
Yeah. That's not super common, is it?
No,
it's not super common to run into Cubans, right?
It's to run into Cubans like that. No, I mean, that's the thing. When you run into a Puerto Rican or a Dominican out here, you feel like you found somebody from home because you're like, wow, there's a Caribbean Latino. Where are we? We're like a small group,
Yeah, bro. Mm-hmm. That's so true. It's so, it's
always meeting.
It's like seeing a unicorn.
Mexican, the Hispanics.
Well, bro, in Miami, that's the thing is in Miami. I think about how many Mexicans did I know in Miami, and there were Mexicans in Miami as well, but not like in terms of
stood
the
out.
ratio
They stood out.
here.
Yeah, they stood
Exactly.
out. They
So
stood
it's
out.
like the way that they felt over there is probably the way that we feel here. You know what I'm saying? Because I
Yeah.
meet another Cuban, I'm like, what are you doing in LA? Doc, why are you out? You know, it's crazy seeing another Cuban out here. And Gabe, man, what a guy.
Yeah.
That guy, talk about a giving person. Oh my God.
That makes me think of now, for both of you being Cuban, like how hard was it leaving Miami? Or just
Isaac,
not
how hard
in
was
the
it for you?
moment, just like time after time, like the first maybe 3 or 4 years, like certain things you ran into in LA and you're like, damn, this is such a culture shock compared to where I came from.
Oh, well, the culture shock, that was for sure. It was a big one. For me, it really wasn't hard to leave Miami, if I'm being honest. It wasn't hard because I don't know, maybe I was naive, but you know, I have my stomach issues, George. So before I moved out here, and this is actually how I met Gabe. I got cast in a play at New Theater. It's not there anymore, but it was New Theater in the Cultural Arts Center of Kendall. They had like this Kendall Cultural Arts Center. And I was in the hospital for 6 days, so I couldn't do the role, right? And like I literally had an IV that I had to administer my own antibiotics. I had diverticulitis.
Sheesh.
And yeah, dude, it was wild. I lost 15 pounds in 6 days.
I feel like you told me about that.
Yeah,
I feel like you mentioned that to me when we worked together.
It's definitely a seminal moment of Isaac. Isaac talks about it a lot. So
because I have some stomach issues too. So when I heard you say that, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, bro.
So then you couldn't do the play?
I couldn't do the play, so Gabe took over for me. He took over my role. So that's how I met Gabe, was through that. So anyways, I was planning on moving out to LA at that point, and I didn't choose New York because I had always been on the East Coast all my life, and I was like, let me just see what the West Coast of the country is like, just period, just to adventure and explore. And after being in the hospital, I remember just one day looking out the window when I was in the hospital and just thinking, man, I got to get out. Life is short. I gotta just get out there. And lo que va a pasar, va a pasar. It is what it is. You know, like my grandmother would say, lo que está para ti, nadie te lo quita. So it is what it is.
Nadie te lo quita. That's my favorite, my mom's favorite, yeah.
That's it, dog. You know, so I just everything happened very in line as well. So I got a job teaching theater to some kids for a few months. And then I had a college friend reach out and say, hey, I know that you were thinking about moving to LA. Our roommate is moving out. Are you still interested in moving out here? And I was like, yes, I'll take. And she goes, okay, well, we need a new roommate. I'm in. So I took over that room. And in the actual act of, I always say the hardest part about moving anywhere is physically doing it. Literally getting your stuff, putting it in a car, putting it in storage, and just moving your body that way.
So, pain in the ass, yeah.
It is, bro. And it wasn't hard for me mentally or emotionally to leave right away. That didn't start to get me until a few years in, until I realized when I would go back home, you know, all my little cousins, like my cousins are having kids and all this stuff. I'm the cousin that lives in California now. You know what I'm saying? I'm no longer that, you know, or the Theo that lives over there.
You're not part of the core group.
That's what I'm saying. So that's when it started to hit me emotionally, is in missing out on those moments that you start to see, you know, and you think about that moving out here, but it's not until you actually feel it that kind of stuff started to hit me, was realizing, you know, missing birthdays, missing graduations, missing that kind of stuff is when it started to get difficult, right? But then that's when there's those moments, like my mom is one of my biggest champions, and she was actually telling my wife and I the other day, she said, you know, you guys moving out to LA was probably the best decision you could have done for your craft, because you're so focused on it over there, you know, versus if you were in Miami, you know, we're always having something every Sunday. Oh, you know, a kid farted, time to throw a party. You know what I'm saying? That's just kind of se tiró un peo, yeah, hola, let's go pachanga. It's like everything is always, and that's how my family is too. So that's just, she said, you guys would have been more distracted down here. So, I mean, I do agree with that. However, it doesn't make it any easier.
Not only that, but if you are somebody who is, at least I'm self-aware, and if you're somebody who's self-aware, then you're, you know, in my case, for example, likewise, I feel like I have time lost. I feel like I have memories that I could have made. I mean, when I moved out, it wasn't that big of a culture. It wasn't that crazy of a different shock to me because I had moved out with my girlfriend at the time, and then we also moved in with some people that we had went to school with at FIU. So we had a lot of people, but then everybody kind of just went their own separate ways, and then it was just me alone. And over the years, watching my parents age and my brother, and watching my friends, like have kids and have these lives and grow up, and they became adults and they're living that life, and I'm still like trying to make my dream come true. I think about that and I'm like, wait a minute, I can't lose all that time because it's lost. It's lost. You don't get the time back with your family. You don't get it back. So you have to and that's a risk that you have to take. And your family knows it too. I mean, we're fortunate that we have parents that say, go and do it. They know it's very hard. It's so hard for a Cuban parent to say, go and follow your dream on the other side of, the United States. But if you are self-aware, then that is pressure on you. You say, I can't do that. I mean, I can't have all that time that was lost without really giving it my everything. So that way I make it count. So that way so it doesn't matter how long it takes, so that your future family, your kids, your grandkids, they're going to be so grateful that you did that. You're going to set them up. And in this industry, look, it's so difficult to make it, but it's one of those things that if you do happen to be lucky and make it and have somewhat of a career, you make bank. You make a lot of money. And it's not because, you are curing cancer or doing brain surgery, but it's because you're skilled at your craft and you were willing to fucking go through all that shit. Yep. I mean, sometimes you get the job because you're the only one left. You endured it all and you fucking deserve it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a mentor say, you don't get paid to act, you get paid to wait. So you're literally in the in-between moments, right?
Yeah.
The paycheck is nice, but it's those in-between moments that's why you get that cushy little paycheck, because it's a lot of hurry up and wait. Right. So it's a wild chase, man. It's one of those things that my wife and I met in college, and we go back to try and talk to the kids there every year because my family goes to Disney every year. So we try to go and just talk to the kids about what the reality is of moving out across the country and what rent looks like, what gas prices look like, what kind of jobs you're going to have to get, what it actually is to, self-submit yourself as often as possible, how we found our representation, how it's, just an honest retrospective of what our experiences have been. Because I feel like I don't know about you, but when I was in college, I didn't get a realistic expectation of moving out and chasing this thing and grabbing it at certain points. That's the thing. You get the coattail every now and then. You're able to get that coattail, right? And then when you feel it, how do you deal with that rise? And like you said, the peaks and valleys of it, right? That's definitely something else that, talking about my Netflix movie, that's something that I experienced pretty intensely, dude, because I didn't work on anything for a year and a half until, we met doing Loop Group. So I had done that.
Yeah.
But on camera work, I've only done one thing on camera, and it was a short film that I self-submitted for. Aside from that, I did a podcast and a scripted podcast that's coming out. But besides that, I haven't gotten anything, dog. And people have always asked me, oh, you had a Netflix movie that was #2 worldwide for 3 weeks. You must be getting a lot of stuff. And I'm like, nah. You know what I mean? It's hard to describe just continuing.
But you know what? You may do a small little bit part in another movie that you're gonna be like, yeah, I booked this movie or whatever, and that is gonna be the one that steps. You never know what job or what interview you are away from changing your life, and it can be something really, really small, or it can be something that's big, or you can be the lead in this and think, yeah, this is gonna be the one that's gonna set me apart. But maybe it's just a one scene and one thing that one producer's like, that fucking guy's good for this.
Yeah.
And he may want to call you in, and you end up booking that, and you end up being like the lead of a franchise or something. I mean, who knows? That's the thing.
And
It's just
for
one fucking job
the
away.
love of the game is what I always try to stress to people. If you don't love this game, you're gonna burn out. You
No,
got to
of
have
course.
the love of the game, because continually, for instance, have you guys seen? Well, I know you saw Oppenheimer, George. Have you seen Oppenheimer?
Not yet. I'm thinking about seeing it today.
Doc,
Saturday, so
Go-
probably bad mistakes. It's a lot of people.
yeah, it's gonna be packed. Good luck. You're gonna be
Facts, bro.
You're gonna be looking like this at the screen.
Yeah, sure.
It was talk
Make
about
sure you
a
have
play.
energy.
It was the reason why I even bring that up is because you see a movie like Whiplash. That's an actor's movie, right? You see the craft behind it, and when you, for instance, Oppenheimer's, a lot of scenes are like plays, and it's structured a lot like a play, because you just have this dialogue going on back and forth, but the stakes are so unbelievably high. And just looking at the craft behind that, talking about Daniel Day-Lewis as well, and There Will Be Blood, an incredibly nuanced. People think about the big scenes where it's like, I've abandoned my child. But there's so much stuff in that movie that's so nuanced and real that craft becomes reality, and you kind of forget you're even seeing somebody act. Right?
Yeah.
And that is so inspiring.
Yeah. I gotta say, since you mentioned that, you mentioned fucking There Will Be Blood and the small nuances. I always mention when he does abandon his child in the train. It's a very small moment. There's barely any lines. He just grabs his son. He looks around and he says, "I'm gonna go check, the conductor, and I'll be right back." You can't hear anything in his voice, but if you look closely, because you have to look close with Daniel Day-Lewis, you see so much more. And if you look very closely, when he's looking at his son, there's a single teardrop that comes down, and that scene is just like, it's not even 20 seconds. And you would think most actors just throw that away. Oh, I'm going to go to the conductor. But you see that, and that guy has an entire world going on that is so subtle, and the artistry is so good, you will miss it. You will miss it unless you watch the movie like 20 to 30 fucking times and pause it, and you're like, oh my God, that tear. What the hell?
Bro, he is I always think of Bill the Butcher from Gangs of New York.
Oh,
that
my
guy.
goodness, yeah.
Oh my God, bro.
Yeah.
When he taps his eye with the knife, and he actually did that, bro. He put in a contact so he could tap his eye with a knife. My guy was committed.
All in.
About commit. Yeah, all in, bro. You want to know why? Going back to something else we were talking about with Christian Bale, it's that thing of, I always have, my biggest fear is untapped potential. That is my own internal biggest fear, is that I'm going to look back on my life and be like, damn, I could have done more, right? And to a certain degree, I think you may always have that. However, take somebody like Daniel Day-Lewis, take somebody like Christian Bale. You got to go 100% plus, because you just never know what is going to happen. And if you only give 75%, you're going to be like, damn, what if I would have given that extra little 25% in something like that? That's why
you have to treat every job like it's your last, and you're never going to get a chance to act again. You're never going to be on the world stage. If you fail when you do this, nobody's going to give you another shot. I mean, that's obsessive thinking. But again, like we just went back to the beginning. I'm somebody who loves to put the pressure on myself. With Call of Duty, I was like, if I don't fucking do this right, I'm going to have to move back to Miami, because I'm not going to get it right, But again, I did not want to be like, man, I was at the top of the food chain and I didn't take advantage of the steak that was up there. I didn't really, really give it my all. I was there for Call of Duty and I half-assed it. No, I was like, yo, I'm going to fucking go 100% hardcore.
And you got nominated for a BAFTA next to Chris Judge.
Oh, man, yeah.
Bro.
Yeah. Well,
so Chris,
he got nominated for a BAFTA next to me. He walked away with it.
Well, I think in a lot. I mean, God bless him. That dude he's the dude that plays Kratos in God of War. George, that's Chris Judge, and what a voice that guy's got, man. Wow,
no, of course.
But,
and look, I mean, an incredible effort, because you got to think, like, Alejandro, my character, was in like a 6 to 8 hour campaign, and he was spliced throughout the campaign. Chris Judge was in a 35-hour campaign, and it was just him talking the whole damn time. So yeah, obviously, like that is you deserve the award, man. You deserve it. I mean, I was there like, I'm here. What the hell am I doing here?
Bro, the first time I got turned on to mocap, I think I showed you this, George Michael, as well. My buddies were obsessed with The Last of Us in college. Obsessed. And they would watch all the behind the scenes mocap. And there was a particular video, and this is when I was like, this is like theater, that it was the final scene in the game. And the actors, just for one take, I think they said it before, they just started breaking out into song, and they performed the entire thing. It was an outtake, so it didn't make it into the game, obviously, but they were just having fun. And then you saw how they actually did it, and they put it up against the game, and it was like, dude, this is theater. This is an unbelievable amount of freedom that you can have to just explore everything. Bro, it's unbelievable what people are doing with video games nowadays. It really is.
And you were watching Troy Baker, who Troy Baker is, speaking of Christian Bale and voice acting, he is kind of like the Christian Bale of voice acting. He's a star, and he's one of those that before those 5 or 6 years that actors have been taking mocap seriously, he was taking it seriously, and he was, one of the pillars of the industry doing it then. And he understood that it's much more than just a little bit of voice and movement. Now more than ever, you can really affect the player because of the technology, in the same way that an actor affects the audience when they do TV and film, more so with video games, man, because you're playing. These people are helping you, especially in a military game. These people, they want you to save their lives. They want to be your brother. There's that camaraderie between each other that they may not get from anybody else. I mean, look, some of these guys, some of these players may be socially awkward. They don't want to go outside, but they feel, connected to your character. You are their hero, and they expect you to help them out. So those are important things to think of too when you're making a video game, for sure.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the future of our industry is, bro? Where do you think it's moving? Not in terms of the industry, but in terms of acting itself. Where do you think the future of acting is moving towards?
I don't know. There's a lot of actors who are afraid that AI is going to take over. AI is not. I mean, AI may be trying to take some jobs from us, but I don't think it's gonna. It's not gonna. AI is not going to win over Daniel Day-Lewis or somebody like that. At the end of the day, audiences are going to want to see real humans feeling real emotions, because that's what they can connect to. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're like, oh my goodness, I'm connecting to this AI character that's created by technology. Well, great, but at the end of the day, you'll know it's a machine. And somebody like me, I want to be able to see somebody have an experience and recreate an experience and create one for me using real emotions, not emotions that are in a computer, but emotions that I feel too. Because that's the beauty of acting, is that I communicate some vulnerable emotions to you, and you may not know as the audience why you're feeling it, but that's because we're connected through the heartstring. There's no heart in AI. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have a good positive attitude that this actor is not going to lose any jobs to AI,
Amen, brother. God willing. And I agree.
Never die attitude.
You can't. And everything is cyclical also. That's something else that I've realized lately. For instance, I told you that I did that podcast, that scripted podcast. It's like a radio play. So these scripted podcasts are coming back, and more. Oscar Isaac and Julianne Moore
awesome.
Did one. They're awesome.
They're awesome. I've done some of those, and they're good. They're good.
And
That's
they're
awesome.
so much fun to do. It's so much fun, and it's a lot of freedom. The way that they create and establish sound in an environment is mind-blowing. That's a whole nother art form as well. So everything, it's literally like an old school radio play, where before,
I love that it's like a radio play. I know, yeah.
You know what I mean? They would sit next to the radio, and they would gather their family and listen to this thing. And excuse me, I've done that at the gym. I'll listen to some of those while I'm at the gym working out. I'm like, dude, this is beautiful. It's so everything. Yeah. I agree with you. I don't think that AI is ever going to replace the human. I look at theater. Theater hasn't gone anywhere when TV and film came out, because people still want to feel that thing, right? That thing that's connecting you guys. That just reminded me also, I wanted to ask you, how did you get into this, bro? How did you get into
the
acting?
origin story.
To acting?
What's the Bruce Wayne Batman story for Alain
Oh,
Mesa?
man. So I was always acting as a kid, but when I was supposed to go to middle school, I was supposed to go to Richmond. I lived in Country Walk. And my cousin had stories of him getting his shoes taken at Richmond, and it just wasn't the best middle school. It was just, they had problems there. So my parents said, "Why don't you try going to this other school, which was Southwood Middle School?" Actually, I had given them the sheet that they gave me in I don't know, in 5th grade, and they were like, "Hey, go to the school." It was an art school. So I tried out for everything, man. I tried out for music. I tried out for guitar. I tried out for it all, and I sucked at everything. And the only thing that my mother said, "Hey, why don't you try acting? Because you are always already in the school plays, and you're always very animated." I was a kid who was always running around in fucking costume in April. So I did the monologue, and I got it. And ever since then, I don't know. I just kind of, I felt right. I was like, yeah, well, of course I like this, because I like playing pretend. And then when I went to New World, and then New World was really like a conservatory. So once I got to like junior year, I was like, hey, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I was very, very blessed to have been acting and going to school for acting since I was like, man, 9 years old.
Do you remember what the monologue was? Do you remember the monologue that got you into Southwood was?
Yeah, it was called Billy the Blob. It was from it was like from one of those. Yeah, I was a little kid, so it's like, I don't ever want to go back to school. No, dude, I can still recite most of it. That's what's crazy. I don't ever want to go back to school ever, because Billy the Blob is there. He's a Billy big kid, 2 grades older than me, and then he talks about how he threw his fucking notebook in the trash. It's crazy. It's like Shakespeare, how I still remember that monologue, and it was from like one of those. Monologue books for kids. It's not from a play at all. It's like that. Yeah. It just exists on that one page. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's what happened. That's how hilarious. I got into it, man.
That's awesome, bro.
yeah.
And New World is not an easy school to get into for high school either.
No,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't know anything about New World at the time.
Where
I just knew that.
That sounds familiar.
Downtown.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And they also have downtown. Now they have a college as well. They have
they had a college then too. They had a college then too. New World College. I mean, I think it's the same. It's the same faculty as the high school. So if you had gone to the high school, a lot of the time those kids go on to other colleges and stuff. Because they teach some of the same similar things.
So you did mention in your junior year, that's when like you really knew you wanted to do this for like as a career. Was there like a one of like particular moment when it smacked you in the face and you realized that, or was it from like middle school to junior year, like a series of events of like, man, I can't see myself not doing this for the rest of my life in some type of medium?
Man, I had little angels that were sent all the time to tell me that, hey, you're a good actor. Hey, you should continue doing it. Hey, you should do this. And then when I would compete for anything, like I'd win. And I was just like, hey, maybe it wasn't so good, because my head was fucking getting bigger and bigger. So at that same time as a kid, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go out there and start doing soaps.
I'm Daniel Day-Lewis.
But you need that.
I'm Daniel Day-Lewis.
You do need that.
Who does he think he is? Yeah, there will be blood. I'm going to make it.
Like you said, to be a champion, you got to be a little crazy, bro. Like you got to.
Yo, you do. Absolutely. Yeah. And you do have to be a little crazy. I mean, yeah. Listen, if I ever acted with Daniel Day-Lewis, I'm going to give him a run for his money, because that's the way you got to think. You got to think, you may be better than me, but motherfucker, you're going to get knocked the fuck out right now.
You bleed like I do.
We go toe to toe. Yeah, exactly. You bring it. And as the same way that, Kobe would have brought it to go against the best, it's, you want to make sure that you make them sweat it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially I just kind of kept getting, clues by the universe, man, by God, saying, hey, continue. So by the time that I was a junior, senior, I was already thinking about going to college, and I didn't know if I wanted to go out of state or if I wanted to stay at FIU. I knew I was always going to come to Los Angeles. So I ended up staying at FIU because they gave me a scholarship, and I just figured I'd stay at home, and save money. I didn't save any, but that's what I told myself.
Everybody says. Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, I know. I didn't
There's
save any
no
money,
money.
but
There's
yeah,
no money
that was
saved.
cute that I
That's
thought
how
that.
life.
Yeah, and then I moved out, and then so. But here's the thing: if you really believe it, and if you really believe that you're destined for it, and if you really do it, the universe will push you in that direction. And when you feel like quitting, it'll give you that mountain to say, "Hey, there's going to be worse times than this. Yeah. It's going to be harder times than this. It's going to be times you're going to be in the valley even longer than this. But look at where you're at right now, because you see right there, you see that little bit? That's the palace. You just have to cross all these mountains to get there. And if you don't ever get there, great, that's fine. Because imagine the life that you lived. You have people who are behind the first mountain wondering where the fuck you went.
That is 100% true. It's what's the saying? Shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, at least you'll be amongst the stars or whatever.
You're amongst the stars, yeah.
Yeah, that's it, dude. It's chasing. I was thinking about this as well. I've been thinking about the whole idea of ambition lately, right? Because I was talking to my dad, and my dad was saying something about you got to have ambition, right? And then I was thinking about what's the positive and negatives of ambition. Now, I think that they're kind of interchangeable, because the negatives of ambition could lead to a life of solitude, a life of losing people, a relatively barren life in a lot of sense. However, the positives of that is that you're going after something and achieving. And those that recognize and realize that are going to stick with you. I mean, Kobe talks about that, right? I remember there was an interview with what's his name? Patrick Bet David, the guy who has Valuetainment, a big, whatever, this guy who's a big podcaster. He was talking, and he asked Kobe, so during the time when you first got in the league, what was your mentality? He goes, I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the best. And I thought to myself, I want to be like Magic. I want to be like MJ. I don't know if I can get there, but shit, let's see. And so I dedicated everything I could to do that. And he asked him, how did that affect your relationships? And he said they suffered, right? But the people that understood that I was going after something would be around when I came back, right? So after I was done going after this thing and gave it everything I had, you kind of make up for lost time, right? But in the process of that, you're going to have to sacrifice, like we were talking about earlier, in terms of moving across the country, sacrifice a lot of things, right? And again, the champion mentality is definitely, you have to do that in order to go after something. Of course, there's a fine balance between everything, because you never want to be hating your life, so to speak. But definitely looking at that palace further in, I've that's something, and listening to the whispers. People always want the billboard, but they ignore los angelitos que te están diciendo algo every single day. It's just you got the whispers every day, and you just got to listen to it. It's hard to
every day they're there.
You got to. I had a lady yesterday. I was in Chipotle, and una vieja loca just started talking to me, and I was like, why is this lady talking to me? But she just started talking to me, right? And she's like, yeah, I've had out-of-body metaphysical experiences, so I understand the spiritual world and I understand the physical world. And I'm like, right on, cool, yeah, for sure. And then she goes, actor, right? And I was like, yeah. She goes, that's what I thought. And I was like, okay, interesting. And then after, we paid and everything, I just told her, have a great day, ma'am. It's nice to meet a nice person. And she goes, she didn't say I'm going to pray, but she said something along those lines. I'm going to send out messages for you to continue to get work as an actor. And I was like, cool, thank you. Because she asked me what my day job was also, and I told her about that. But that's one of those whispers, man. It's important to just focus in on that rather than the critic in your head that's trying to keep you down.
It's being grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
When the pandemic happened, I was like, dude, first of all, I was not working full time as an actor. I was working like barely part time as an actor. I still have my night job. And I was just like, how the hell am I going to make it now? How am I going to get any more work? What am I going to do? Well, the pandemic, everything stopped filming. I started to do a lot more post-production voiceover work, a lot more dubbing, a lot more stuff. And that was actually how I was able to become a full-time actor. It was in the middle of the pandemic also that I booked Call of Duty. Wow. So I was incredibly grateful that I was getting the dubbing. And then the universe said, okay, you're so grateful that you're getting the dubbing. Well, now we're going to give you this role. Oh, you're so grateful that you got the role and you're working this hard on it. And then it ended up being what it is. So now that all these actors are on strike, which I completely support, obviously, most of the stuff that I do as a voiceover actor is under the scope of work that is not struck. So not only am I working still, I'm working more again. So it's one of those things that you just constantly have to be, and I'm so grateful for it. I mean, I'm not like, hey, I'm working. I'm just, oh my God, I'm so blessed because I know there's a lot of actors that aren't. And then you'll see that I'll end up booking another video game or something else. You know, who knows? Because that's just the way it is, man. You got to put that attitude in life. You got to be happy with, you know, the smallest things that you have. And if you're happy with that, the universe is going to say, okay, well, you need more of those things that you're grateful for because you're grateful for those little things that you barely have.
Abundance mentality, bro. Abundance mentality versus scarcity.
That's it, man. Yeah.
It's what you put out's what you're going to get back in. Right. And that's
1,000% of the time.
Very important out here as well, man. I'm so happy that I've met people through Gabe, bro. Like, technically speaking, I met you through Gabe because of the looping, right? And so many.
You got to put Gabe on the show now.
I'm trying, dog. I'm trying to get him on here. Man's a hard man to reach.
Who's
doing busy, a lot, bro?
Oh, I see that Miami-Dade on your arm there. I just saw the Miami-Dade on your arm.
Miami-Dade, baby.
Damn, that's
what's the other tattoo you have, by the way? I saw you have another tattoo on your other arm. What is that? Is it Arabic?
So I have this right here. Is means it is written, and it is from one of my favorite books, The Alchemist.
Woo.
Yeah.
That
was my first tattoo. That's why it's dated, because I thought that it's gonna be my only tattoo, and this is a special day. Let me date it, and then I ended up getting a bunch more on my arm. So
that's what happens after the first one you get. You want more, right?
Who's Gabe? Who's this guy Gabe that I keep hearing about?
Bro, he's an actor. He's the director. God, he's a multi-hyphenate. He's done so much stuff.
Yeah,
but he's from Miami. He directed a play in Miami recently. And he's the guy that took over for me. I met him through that play that I was talking about earlier when I was in the hospital. He took over my role, and he did the play down there. So he's an actor from Miami. But I got reconnected with him because I saw on IG, like maybe 2 years ago, that he was posting something about a noise within theater. And I go, that's a theater out here. So I hit him up. I'm like, bro, are you out here in LA? He's like, and he called me up. He goes, yeah, bro, I'm in LA, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Not even a week later, he literally called me. He goes, hey, I have an opportunity for you. Are you down to do something? I'm like, yeah, bro, 100%. That's what I mean, that he is such a giving human. He will put you on to so many things, right? He'll give you opportunities to do so many things, and I'm so grateful. I always tell him.
He did recently too. I just saw him this week at the gym, and he was like, hey man, I'm going to be doing something in Miami, but you know, I got some show that I was supposed to be doing, a Shakespeare show. And dude, he forwarded me the email because he's like, if you have time, he said, just you don't have to do anything, but if you want to pick up the role, reach out to these people, tell them you know me, you can do the Shakespeare. I was like, I mean, I can, unfortunately I don't have time, but that's so sweet that he sent that, Hey man, and his girlfriend Diane, they're really good people. We all work together. That's how I know Isaac too. Is from that one day that we looped
the mother.
We looped the mother. But
yeah, no. It was Los Frikis. That's what it was.
Oh, it was Los Frikis.
Yeah.
It was one of those loop gigs that it was just everybody in the room was Cuban, so it was like the loudest loop. Everybody was like asking Isaac for cafe. Yeah, it was one of those. It was an unusual experience that day.
You don't get that.
I always tell people, like, when my parents have Cuban friends over, and I'm like, when I was younger, I'm in my room, like, playing video games or whatever, and I have maybe a friend in my room. I'm like, bro, it sounds like they're fighting downstairs. Like, if you're ever in another room,
all the time.
Sometimes I would used to run downstairs. Like, I think a fight broke out, and it's just them laughing about some.
You're like, calm down, and they're like happy. Yeah, they're like having a good time.
That's the way to live life, man. Like, I'm Colombian, but a lot of my best friends are Cuban, and growing down here in Miami, it's like, it's amazing, dude. It's the spirit of Cuba itself is just obviously it bleeds into Miami, but like to see it firsthand of people of that country, how they interact with other people and just the world in general is just it gives me one thing that I could say is like you gotta live life, man. Like I'm very introverted, but when I'm around Isaac or my other
Likewise.
friends, I come to life and I'm like, I don't get it, dude. And he's like, dude, that's the best part about it. Like you obviously you don't give yourself to everybody, and that's a good thing too, but you need to have friends that are gonna bring that life out of you. So it's like it's a blessing, bro. Cuba is just a special place, man.
Yeah.
Special place.
It's such a small island, and you can hear it across the country. That's what you can hear it across the world, bro. That's the thing.
No, but isn't it? But that's the thing though, is that you hear cries for hunger from the island. The real Cuban culture is in the United States. It's in Miami,
yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah,
It's in Miami. I mean, when people ask me what's Cuba, what's Cuban culture, what's Cuba like, I said I don't know what Cuba's like. It's people starving out there. It's fucking poor as hell, and I wouldn't want to go see it. If you want to experience Cuban culture, you got to eat Cuban sandwiches in Miami. Tomar café. You got to go.
La Ventanita.
Salsa. It's in Miami.
Yeah.
It's in Miami.
And the people here, they really like, even if they're not even born or like their parents or grandparents from Cuba, they really understand like to be in Miami 90 miles away is like, it's a whole nother world, bro. It's literally like El Dorado. Like you made it to the promised land, and they really appreciate it. Hold on to it tight, you know. It's
almost by force, not by choice.
Yeah.
So, the only reason Isaac and I are in the United States right now, we're not in Cuba, is because our parents had to flee. They had no choice, So there's a different mentality. I did another Cuban podcast with these guys a couple months ago, and they said the same thing. There's a different mentality when you're born of immigrant parents, because they had to come in here. They didn't, like my dad. He was part of Operation Pedro Pan. So he left everybody. He came by himself when he was a kid, and he didn't know if he was going to see his parents again. And some people in that didn't even see their parents again. So it's tough. It's like, land of the free, the American dream. People hate on the United States, but man, I can't hate on the United States.
Agreed.
Are you kidding me?
I have the same.
Come
mentality.
on.
That's what I mean, bro. The saying "El próximo año en La Habana," right? That's like what the saying is, because my grandparents came over, and my mom is the youngest of 5, and she was the only one that was born in the U.S. The rest of her sisters were born in Cuba. And when my 2 oldest aunts came on the Peter Pan flights, so they came alone when they got to the airport. Right, it was my grandparents and the 4 daughters. The youngest daughter my grandparents had, the Army said her passport's not valid. The rest of them can go, but her passport's not valid. So my grandparents were like, what are you talking about? She's a baby. And they said, she can't go. So either you go with your 3 daughters or you all stay behind. So my grandparents were forced to choose. It's like Sophie's Choice, dog. I mean, not to that extent, but it's that mentality. And so they sent their 2 oldest daughters alone on a plane. I think that they were maybe 4 and 3 years old.
Oh my gosh.
To come over. You've met my tias, Dina and Marcia. And they sent them over, through a church friend or whatever, but they had to come over. Dog, that's like the type of thing that you had to go through. So that's why the immigrant mentality thing, especially coming from Miami, chasing an actor's thing, it's about stability. Yeah, it's about force, but it's about that thing of, hey, we're here. Thank God we're here. Don't screw this up. Right. And that's why whenever I meet people out here and they say that they've worked with Cubans, they go, man, those people, hardest workers. Those people are hard workers, great people, hard workers. It's because, bro, you don't have a choice. It's like we've come hearing all these stories growing up and understanding we got a shot. We got a shot out here. So why not? And don't screw that up. Don't screw that up type of thing. It's a blessing, bro.
No, and especially if your parents encourage you to act, because I know a lot of Cuban actor friends of mine that's not the same story at all.
Yeah,
and true. So I mean, we're very blessed that that's the case.
100.
Mm-hmm. I knew for some time, like telling my parents about pursuing music, I was like second guessing telling them, because I'm like, how are they gonna react to this? Like my parents, like their parents left them when they were like 5 years old to come to Chicago, and then they would send them money back for several years before they all moved to Chicago with their parents. So it's like hearing those type of stories, and then who am I to come to my parents and being like, yo, I'm about to take on a career that's like a luxury in a sense, you know? But they had
And
every
it's
right to
not,
say,
and that's the thing. That's the career, but for you, you're an artist. That's not. It's not a hobby. You have to do it.
it's not
You
a
have to
thing.
do
But
it. That's the
Isaac
thing.
even said it. He's like, Isaac one time told me, he was like, hey man, it was a couple episodes ago. He was like, if I told you you couldn't do what you do anymore, how would you feel about that? And I was like, I wouldn't know what to do then, because it's like at this point in my life, like I need to do it. Like that's I need to scratch that itch. If not, I just don't feel like myself. And my parents understood that from like how disciplined I was of not going out, making music in my room all day, every day, and just like engulfing myself in the craft. So then when I came to them saying like, hey, this is what I want to do, well, they're like, keep going. You've been doing it. Like you've shown the road work of no one's telling you to go in your room and make music or to learn how to play the piano and stuff like that. So it's like you guys said, it's definitely a blessing to have parents that have seen the other side of there's no time to do fun stuff because you got to survive in this world we live in from the time they came from. But now they realize, okay, you know, I built a life with so my kids don't have to do that. And that was a beautiful thing. I think it's not easy, I bet, for a parent to, because you don't want to see your child fail at something doesn't have security, you know. But they realize that we came all this way, not just come all this way, we came this way so the next generation can live a life that we never imagined. It's the Latino blood, bro. There's nothing like it, bro.
Gotta go hard. That's the one thing I was.
And it gets filtered. It gets filtered because now, if you have kids, or if, for example, I plan on having kids, and I'm going to make sure that it's very important that they follow their dreams. I don't care if they want to be, a fucking rodeo clown. Like, if you want to be a rodeo clown, great, but you better be the best. You better be like the most famous, award-winning rodeo clown, or at least like go as hard as you can, because don't settle short. You know.
That's it. That's the one thing my dad told me too, because my dad was the one. So my mom was the one that was like, "Go dream as big as you can. You can do it. Go dream as big as you can." And my dad it was always a thing of you gotta make money, right? But that was the balance.
Yeah, dream, pero dinero.
That was the balance of it. And then the one thing my dad said when I was moving out here, and it was for sure, he goes, "Go into it under your own terms, and go hard. If you're gonna go hard. Don't let anybody dictate who you are when you go into this thing. You go in as you, and don't leave any stone unturned. Go hard. Don't half-ass it. Because if you half-ass it, it ain't going to work. In life, period. That's anything, Doc. I don't care what industry you're in. If you're a janitor, if you half-ass it, you ain't going to get everything that you can get possibly from that. You have to go and put in as much as you possibly can. In anything. Anything in life. In love, in life, in relationships.
The way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the truth.
All right,
so
we have a trainer that says that in Miami. That's funny.
It's the truth. We're at an hour and a half.
He's like, dog, if you're gonna fail forward.
Amen.
Fuck up all the way. Go
That's
hard.
the best running backs. Whenever they get tackled, they fall forward because they gain an extra yard. So we're at an hour and a half. So I don't want to keep you too much more of your time on a Saturday, dude. First and foremost, thank you so much for spending time with us, dude. This was
awesome.
This was such a blessing. Sincerely, bro. This is amazing. So we have a couple of questions that we close every episode off with. I'll ask mine, and then George will ask you the final one. And again, doesn't have to be too deep or anything. But my first question that I always like to ask is, I have this idea of a steel tissue in my head, meaning a tissue can wipe away blood and they can wipe away tears, right? They can satisfy both things. So what are some things that have made you the most resilient in your life and also the most vulnerable in your life? That's something I like to ask everybody.
Oh, man. Those are good questions. So definitely the most resilient, my family. Just thinking about my family. Going back to what we were saying about how, knowing that you're losing time with them, knowing that you don't get those memories back, it makes what you're doing here, the stakes go through the roof, and you have a greater sense of purpose. And I can't look back and be like, wait a minute, I spent 13 years away from my family, they've aged. And now I've done one gig, Call of Duty, and great, I'm done. I'm going to go back or I'm going to take it easy. No, you're in it for the long run. You're in it, because then at that point they understand that it's not just about you, it's about who comes after you and your kids and your grandkids. And I believe that you have to make it so that you're setting their life up easy so that they can do what they love, and give them the opportunities to follow their dreams as best as you can. So that definitely makes me really resilient. I've never, ever thought about quitting. There have been times that anybody walking by me would be like, dude, you haven't fucking quit yet? But, oh my God, I've couch surfing times that I was, didn't have money to pay the rent, didn't have money to eat. I mean, so much has happened over the last 13 years, and I loved every bit of it because I love the struggle. So resilient and then vulnerable. Ooh, man. I mean, I constantly am trying to bring out as much vulnerability when I act as possible. And every time I do, I find out more about what makes me vulnerable. And I think that acting and vulnerability in acting is so important. It's just 100% of the time, whether you're acting in a military game, whether you're acting in whatever, you should be vulnerable. And yeah, it's a weird balance too, because always vulnerable when you act, but in real life, there are times you have to be vulnerable, but you also have to stay in strong. So at the same time, you have to be vulnerable, but have guarded vulnerability. And I think that if you guard your vulnerability when you're not acting, then you'll have a better chance of keeping it intact.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. Go ahead, George. Bring us home.
So we end the episodes with this question I have. It's basically fill in the blank. Whatever you fill the blank, I to give context because it might sound very vague if I just shoot it at you. Whatever you fill the blank in with, it can be profound. It can be something as simple as how you're feeling in the moment, or just based off this episode, or where you are in life. So it goes like this: my name is blank, and I am blank. So it could be I'm blessed, or I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm energized, whatever you want. This is your time to kind of give a piece of your mind to all the millions of listeners. Dale.
My name is Alancito, and there's still music in me that's yet to be played.
God damn. Everybody, we have yet to have one person answer that question and just be like, and I am awake. It's always, it's such a beautiful way to end it. I got to give kudos to George for those. Dog, this was amazing, bro. This is your time. If you want to plug anything, do you want to promote anything? Go ahead. You have the camera in front of you. Take it away.
Not necessarily. I do have some things that, I guess I can't talk about them, but I can tell you that very soon I'm gonna be coming out of that valley, and you're gonna see me in the mountain again, and you're gonna be like, "Holy shit, this guy! He was climbing another mountain. He didn't fall off. He was climbing, and he was amongst the clouds. And now the clouds have cleared, and look at him at the top. And when the good happens and the bad happens, you always got to remember that too shall pass. So, amen, brother.
Bang, bang. Yeah. I love it, bro. Thank you so much.
Appreciate
que Dios te bendiga y te unja. How my abuela used to say it to me. God bless you.
Igualmente.
And like
success to you, brother.
Say, todo pasa, like you said. This
todo pasa. This too shall pass, baby. All right, peeps. All righty.
All right, guys.
This is the Café Con Podcast.